The podcast you are about to listen to is one of the many podcasts that is part of the College Huddle, the largest fan-led college sports podcast community on the internet. Fan-made, fan-driven, and fan-fueled. The College Huddle.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free!
Okay, next question.
I'm a horse football coach right now.
You know, it got shoved up, shoved it up. It got shoved, right?
What's up, Spartans fans? Episode 61 of the Spartan Savants show. Back after a hiatus. I believe the last time we talked was probably the end of basketball season. Willie here, obviously joined by the boys, Travis and Nikki. Lots to get into. Oh, and
I go by
and Hamburg.
I like it. I like it.
Lots to get into. We've been out there for quite a while, taking a little summer break and debrief from the Michigan State world, but a lot's going on, a lot of changes that we'll get into. Athletic directors with football coming up, we'll talk state of the program there. And then get into a little bit of roster refresh, obviously, with the transfer portal in the world we live in now. There's the roster's ever changing, so we'll get into that a little bit. Some new faces, saying goodbye to some faces, and then I'm sure we'll talk about who we're excited about as far as this year goes, and just talk about football at a high level. But before we get into all that, it's been a while since we talked. Travis, how are you, man?
Yeah, I'm not bad, man. It's a good thing we're got some things going on here for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick, Mr. N, how about yourself?
I'm doing probably better than Alan Heller, so that's good. Doing pretty well.
That's a good place to start for us, I think. You probably about a month ago now made the decision to fire previous athletic director Alan Haller, and we'll get into the new hire. After all that, I kind of want to talk about Alan Haller on his own a little bit. Travis, just give me your knee-jerk reaction. I know it's a month removed now, so it's not exactly fresh, but it's had some time to set in for you. What were your thoughts on the Alan Haller firing?
Yeah, initially I would say I was a little surprised, but not totally taken back. Like, we've heard things about that throughout his tenure, particularly pertaining to NIL, and that's a lot of the stuff that was brought up in the articles that were written about his firing. And I'll get back to that in a second. It seemed like he was a pretty, he could have been a pretty good athletic director if it wasn't for the NIL stuff. Like, he made some really good coaching hires. The hockey teams turned around. Everybody loved the Jonathan Smith hire when he made it for football last year, and the women's basketball team has turned around. And there's good coaches, like they mentioned during the press conference, throughout the campus. But when you look at the current landscape of college sports and you read those articles where they're using phrases like "paralyzed by NIL" and was getting a glassy look in his eyes when NIL was brought up, that's where you start to raise the red flags and kind of start panicking a little bit, because, like it or not, NIL is where college athletics is right now. And, people talk about it like the Wild West, which it is, because nobody knows what's going on. And that's not something that really went along with Alan Haller's strengths. I felt like he was kind of like, while other programs were using like the murkiness and the little confusion with NIL to go do whatever they want, he was sitting around waiting for somebody to put some kind of reform and restraints on the thing when it's obviously not coming. And with him, he was a MSU football player himself, brought up in that era of, they were probably doing NIL. Everybody was doing NIL, but it wasn't NIL and it wasn't legal at all. But at the same time, MSU was kind of a program especially then, was built on like this blue collar mentality and kind of like this underdog and like developing these lowly rated recruits. And recruits these days aren't really going towards their development because of what's available to them. And Alan Haller was kind of a guy that seemed like he went by those kind of principles, and very much, especially with all this stuff that was going on with other programs in terms of scandals and NCAA violations and stuff, which, hey, I guess we weren't totally innocent in all that, but he seemed like a guy that was very much trying to do things by the book. And that's something that's very hard to do right now, especially because when it comes to NIL, there is no book. It's a completely different unknown that everybody's trying to navigate and still trying to figure out every day.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's pretty spot on. Nikki, what about you?
So, look, Alan Heller, great Spartan, incredible Spartan. There's a time, maybe 15 years ago, he could have been a great athletic director.
Exactly.
Totally agree.
Exactly.
After the art, like what Travis was saying, after reading some of those articles, holy fucking shit, this guy needs to get out of here.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think it shows amazing leadership from KG, our new president, because he could have easily just ran out the clock another year for it to go away, but he knew, hey, we got to get this thing going. Hey, Alan, pack your bags. Thanks for everything. Smell ya. I just think he was a great post-Nasser athletic director. Let's keep everything as less controversial as possible, which ended up not even mattering because Mel Tucker. But like he was like the anti-Ward. Do everything as by the book as possible, even if there isn't a book. Assume that if you do anything wrong, the book will get thrown at you. While other athletic departments are literally letting anything slide, like car accidents, everything. So I don't know. Our new guy's going to be quite that crazy, but yeah, it just seems it was the right move, and I'm glad it happened, and we're on to a new era.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just give my thoughts real quick, or I'll try to give them real quick. Totally with you guys. I think Alan Haller, good man, good Spartan, right guy, wrong time. I think he probably left the athletic department in a better place than it was when he took it over. Travis, you mentioned good coaching hires. I mean, the hockey hire I have heard was gift wrapped to him, I guess, so to say. So, I mean, I don't know how much
need that.
Hindsight, really, I don't know how much credit he deserves. Having said that, he got it done, and obviously the hockey team is in a great spot. I don't know how much you guys, our listeners, wait into what Justin Spiro says, but I think that the relationship with the donors was really fractured. And it's like you guys said, once you hear those things and you see kind of what's going on, I think even from a true outsider's perspective, you could kind of tell the NIL situation wasn't great. I mean, it wasn't like you just didn't hear about it. Like even like us, like no one's ever reached out to me to donate. It's not like and I know that I'm not the billionaire that they're looking for, but you still need like $40 a month from guys like us, like that all helps, but no one, I just never saw a way, I would find my own way to look it up and donate it, but it never felt like it had a lot of juice behind it, especially towards the end. And when you just hear about the fractured relationships and you hear about donors being upset, obviously the right time to make a move. I think, Nikki, you made a great point. Good leadership by Guskowitz to get it done sooner rather than later. Again, I don't know how much weight you want to put into what Spiro says, but he was saying that the fractured relationship goes all the way back to the football coaching hire, not necessarily donors being mad that they hired John Smith, just donors being mad that they weren't involved in the process. And you could look at that as good or bad. I mean, I think that there's something to be said for an athletic director, not leaking or not, making the decision his own. But you can't bite the hands that feed you. And, the new guy, J Batt, talked a lot about relationships, and fundraising. And that didn't really seem to be Alan Haller's main focus. And I think when you look back at Alan Haller's legacy, I think the non-revenue sports probably did a great job. It's hard to argue with that. But I mean, cash is king, and people want a good football team. So it's not worth a good women's basketball team to take away from a good football team. So totally with you guys on the firing. We'll see what happens. But any other Alan Heller thoughts before we move on to the Batman?
Well, there's just one thing that kind of came to my mind when you were talking about the NIL stuff is we don't really know, and I'm sure we'll come into some of this too with the J Batt discussion, but we haven't really known what NIL is at MSU.
Right.
And it's painful to look around the country, like just being here in Texas. I know absolute what everybody is doing pretty much with NIL, not necessarily the ins and outs of everything, but I at least know the names of most of their NIL collectives and stuff from just being here. And we don't even, as MSU alums, we really can't even say that we know that.
Yeah. It was clear. And when it's like, I don't know which one of you said it, but when you read that article, it said or whatever was on the message board or wherever it came from, that he would be paralyzed when people brought up the topic, or he had the glossy
that
look in
was
his eye.
Scary.
I mean, that's like, whoa, hey. I mean, it's for better or worse, that's the world we live in now. Like, we're paying the athletes, so you gotta get on board, or you're gonna get left behind. And I think the one thing too that I can't move past with Haller is I just lost my train of thought. When you have all these things going on, and it's like there's the little things that also stacked on top of it too, is like when he just kind of bowed down to the Michigan with the tunnel and with the on the field incidents. Like, you can't have that. Like, that's I mean, this guy is supposed to bleed green and white. He played football for the Spartans. Like, where is a little fire and a little tenacity? And it's just it's too bad. I do think he's a good guy. And I do think he left the athletic director or athletic department in a better spot than when he took it over. But, it was a good thing to move on to J Batt.
One quick thing, just a quick comparison between the two of Batt and Haller. This is a pro Ford Field podcast for MSU games occasionally, but we basically gave him that game just being completely spineless, saying, Big Ten, please do whatever you want. We'll give you some more money to pay for Michigan stuff, Michigan's advanced scouting, please. Whatever. We took the Ford Field game for free, which cool, very nice of us. But Georgia Tech, they are actually playing a game at Mercedes-Benz Field, and they got $10 million to do that. I mean, that is just easy.
That's just good negotiating right there.
Yeah, I mean, negotiate putting a Spartan helmet on the field or something. Come
on. I think there was a level of frustration with Haller, and I think those definitely would be things that people would point to outside of just the shortcomings in NIL. The product in the football field is not his fault. There was a lot of stuff that happened with Mel Tucker. The 1 year, you can't fault him for the one bad year under John Smith, but you just felt like we were getting passed by significantly by every other program. Maybe not every other program like Purdue, whatever, but
pretty much every other
the teams that we should be competing with, and maybe some that we shouldn't even, the teams that we really
should be wiping the floor with.
Right, exactly.
It
just felt like getting passed by.
Yeah, I mean, I can get into this now. It's like how where we were, you see a legacy. We are losing every legacy recruit to Rutgers.
Yeah.
You see, we are Michigan State. The past 10 years, 15 years, ever, we've been one of the winningest programs. You see us like recruiting against TCU, Pitt, and now it used to be instant Spartan. Now it's like, well, why are we even trying? Like we have legacies going to like Toledo because it's like, and we have people recruiting wise where it just seems like, and I don't know if it's just the NIL. I don't know if it's Jonathan Smith. It's like it's like if MSU was interested in them, they would be like, hey, recruitment, open, please, somebody, anybody, please recruit me. I cannot go here. It's like MSU was like a toxic brand. Like, oh, this guy is going to MSU. Like, what's wrong with him?
Yeah, I agree. And now switching gears here a little bit to the guy that's going to fix all this. J Batt, the Batman, the holder of the NIL button. On paper, looks like a great hire, right? He was obviously most recently the athletic director of Georgia Tech, led a huge fundraising campaign for upgrades to the stadium. I think the number was like $300 million or something. If you look at their recruiting, they're recruiting in a spot above where Georgia Tech usually recruits. Before that, he was a deputy assistant athletic director at Alabama, where he worked with Nick Saban. Also, I think he had the title of chief revenue officer. Comes from a huge fundraising background, and I think you could tell that from his press conference. I think he mentioned it quite a bit. There's also a really good interview with him. I forget the name of the podcast, but it's with A-Rod. It's like recently, like 2 or 3 weeks ago. They were interviewing J Batt, about 25-minute interview. We talked about fundraising quite a bit and the relationships that have to go with it. Almost like a very stark opposite to what Alan Haller was. So Trav, I'll start with you. Knee-jerk reactions, thoughts, expectations on the Batman.
Yeah, I mean, I texted you guys that after they made the announcement that I think this is better than we could have hoped for when we were looking at that. I mean, we got a guy who's on the younger side of being an athletic director, yet still has incredible experience in the athletic field. I mean, he's worked with Gary Williams in the Maryland basketball program. He's worked at, I think it's about 5 different programs in his career, and mostly as a fundraising role, which mostly what you alluded to. He's got a ringing endorsement from Nick Saban, which is huge. It's pretty big. It's pretty big.
The last guy that got a ringing endorsement from Nick Saban is missing.
How ringing was that one?
He had a pretty big, you know what?
Anyway, but I like the fact that he has been with some programs that have figured out NIL for one thing. Alabama, I think that was part of one of the big things that he worked on over there with their football and their basketball program. Georgia Tech, you mentioned the money he was raising. I think it was 43% more than the year before his first year there. That's a huge chunk of change going in there. And Georgia Tech is at a better spot athletic wise than I think they were when he got there. Plus, they just gave him a 5-year contract extension 6 months ago, and we pried him away. I mean, that's huge. And I really liked when, like, Nick was mentioning in our text thread earlier about how the search firm guy must not be good at his job because he wasn't going to make the call. Mm-hmm. But the fact that we were able to say, hey, we want a top 5 guy in college athletics. This is our top choice. Get him on the phone. And we got him on the phone and we made the deals.
I actually had that quote pulled up. I wanted to bring that. First of all, Chad, what the hell? Maybe do your job and be the best person. But even like incredible leadership again by Kevin Guskowitz, just saying, like, after Chad says he's not movable, say, hey, call him and make him move. Like, sometimes you just got to ask.
Yeah, and that North Carolina connection helps with the two of them. Mm-hmm. And I think the fact that he was a non-revenue sport athlete and a championship level non-revenue sport athlete at that is going to help continue whatever Haller was doing with those to improve those sports down there.
Agreed. I think it speaks to the juice that Michigan State still does have, while things feel down because of a bad football team right now. To be able to pry a pretty well thought of athletic director from another Power 4 school, I think speaks volumes to the weight that Michigan State still carries. And I think he said in his press conference that he believes it's a top 10 athletic department in the country, which I love to hear. Nikki, any I know you just talked about the quote, but any of additional thoughts from you on the Batman?
Yes, I was actually going to say, I was going to bring that up. One thing that I really like about him is that he kind of reminds me of D'Antonio in a way where he doesn't set limits on MSU, because it feels like coaches, staff, and everything, they always kind of do we're MSU, we're pretty good for MSU. Like, it just kind of felt like Haller was that way. Like, hey, we got to be the all-time like inclusive. Like, every athlete's going to be great, taken care of here, which is awesome. I mean, even Nick Saban used to say, well, Michigan State can't compete with the Michigans. But now we not only just like football coach like D'Antonio, we have an AD saying, hey, we are a top 10 program in the country. We are going to compete for championships. It's not like saying even we can, it's saying we are going to. Yeah. And if you look back 10, 15 years ago when we were in our prime, the big three, Hollis, Izzo, and Mark Hush, they were super aligned. Everything was good there. And hopefully with Kevin Smith, Batt, and obviously Izzo will be aligned again. That's how things will work, because that's really what you need for a good athletic program.
Yeah.
Or either that, or you need an athletic director who hates his coach and will do whatever it takes to win and cover every scandal possible. That's the other way to succeed.
Yeah. Yes. Shout out to Jabba the Hutt Manuel there. He's an all-time slime ball. But that's honestly, in the world we live in, college football, college sports wise, the slime balls, that's a good field for them. Yeah. I love the hire. Love everything you guys are saying. Totally agree with it. I think I love that he stressed the importance of football. I think that, look, I'm not going to sit here and say I want all non-revenue sports cut. That's not what I want, but I mean, football is what pays for the non-revenue sports in reality. Football and basketball, at least at Michigan State. So I mean, football is the king right now, and I mean, you're not going to have great recruiting, great athletic department. Even at applications for new students is all going to be. It's all driven by football. I mean, it's not applications for new students. It's all driven by football, but it certainly plays a role. So I love that he stressed the importance of that. Love that he's won a national championship as a soccer player at North Carolina. Like on paper in the press conference, this, like you said, Trev, it's a home run. I mean, it feels like it's a can't miss, but we'll see what happens. I mean, there's a lot of work to do. I think he's got to start hiring people. Like that he put out a fundraising video yesterday right after his press conference. I think it seems like very committed to that. That's something that he really touched on a lot. And that's something that we were all dying to hear, because that's just not what we had with the last guy. So I think it's definitely a bright spot. We'll see what happens. I don't know if we're gonna see impacts right away. The recruiting cycle's kind of ended for this football season. But maybe in terms of the next topic, the recruiting has been not good, and I think that's because of a flat NIL situation. Nikki, you talked about losing kids from East Lansing just not coming here, and it's tough to see that. So that's hopefully something that we'll see an impact on sooner rather than later. But we might have to wait at least for the next recruiting cycle. But all in on the Batman. Love everything he said.
I actually have a take. This was the take I was hinting earlier via text.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think the recruiting cycle is done. I think we're going to get NIL a little bit better here. And before the end of the year for this 2026 class, I think we will be a top 35 class. And I think we will have landed one 5-star recruit.
Wow.
Ooh.
Most
Wow.
people would say that's in
One that's not a kicker.
possible take, but I'm just gonna put that here right now on.
I hope you're right. And we still have the spring. Do we still have the spring? No, that's over. Spring.
But we get a lot more people at the end of the year. Like so.
There's not another transfer cycle though, right?
No, we're done.
No, unless
Good.
a player or unless a coach gets fired. So who knows? Maybe after Sharon gets fired. So
After Sharon.
I don't want to be
Where do you, with that on that topic, where do you think Jonathan Smith's job security sits right now?
Yes,
obviously he's guard coach for 2025, but it's hard to imagine with a new athletic director that there's not going to be some scrutiny. It's not his guy, right? So you got to think that if you're John Smith, you're kind of like, well, I better get this thing turned around a little quicker than maybe I had anticipated. No,
definitely. I agree.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's like, I don't know, like if he goes 5-7 this year. I mean, depression. Like, I don't know if he'd get fired just because that would be we'd be on our 5th coach or 4th coach in 2020s.
Yeah,
and that just looks horrible.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we aren't winning 7-8 games, I think that seat is scorching hot next year.
Agreed. Yeah. So
And
with
I mean,
that,
if we aren't winning 7-8 games and our recruiting is still horrible, like I don't blame him at all. Like he should.
Yeah. I agree. I think Jonathan Smith deserves at least 2 more seasons, but if it's 5-7 this year, with getting beat by like the competitive teams, the best teams just kicking our asses again, it's going to be scorching hot next year.
Yeah, you're entering Matt Rule hot seat territory there.
Yeah, exactly. So with that, let's get into a little state of the football program here. I think maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, whenever that Corey Armtree guy committed, it felt like the sky was falling. There was a lot of negativity, and I get it. The recruiting is not great.
Recruiting is not fun these days.
It's horrible.
It's not. To Dick's point about the
unacceptably-
legacies, I mean, we've lost, I believe, the sons of Cedric Irvin and Plexico Burris to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
We lost Adam Shaw to Rutgers.
To Rutgers,
We lost
yeah.
a couple guys to Michigan the past few years, which is despicable.
Oh, yeah. Both the Strayhorn sons, right?
Yeah.
Strayhorn and another one, I forgot. But
I thought it was both his sons, and I mean that's our radio announcer. That's scary.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm also
No doubt.
Michigan. Come on. Yeah. The recruiting is worse than I could have ever imagined it would be, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it really wasn't all that fun before, and now it's like, what the hell, man?
You're losing a guy in the backyard to Kansas too. On top of it,
we're not. It's not like I'd be mad if we were losing these guys to Bama, Ohio State, whatever. But
or if you're losing basketball to Kansas, it's a little more. It's a little easier to swallow. Football recruit to Kansas from your own backyard.
Kansas had a good year last year.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I wonder, part of me is maybe it's not that big of a deal just because I think the importance of high school recruiting in the current college football landscape is not as important. Obviously, I think you still want 5 stars, but a lot of teams, you hear a lot of basketball coaches, and I know basketball and football are not the exact same, but Rick Pitino's I'm not even recruiting high school kids now. I'm just working on the transfer portal. And football is different because you have much bigger rosters.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot more of development with football, learning the system, putting on weight, getting them to play the type of football you want them to. But maybe it's not the end of the world. This is me trying to look at it as glass half full as I can. Maybe it's just, but it's not we're killing in the transfer portal either.
Right. But the transfer portal does give you the chance to fill some of those holes with experienced players.
Yeah.
And in more development.
Yeah.
Yes, but the experienced players that we're getting went to like Hope College, and even they're like, no.
Was not an argument for or against either way.
Yeah.
Just an observation.
We're struggling at both ends, but
we call it.
But-
It's horrible. It is just absolutely
yeah.
despicable.
Yeah.
But
at this point, for 2025, the recruiting is done. The team is the team. Trev, what are your thoughts? And it's too early to go down the schedule and start doing wins and losses, so we'll try and keep it high level. What are your thoughts on the state of the program?
I'm scared until they step on the field. Let's put it that way. Like, you're excited about Aiden Childs, Nick Marsh, some of those transfers that came in at receiver, like Amari Kelly, Rod Bullard, Evan Boyd. There's a lot of depth at that tight end position, even though we haven't. You really want to see a much better year from Jack Velling than what we got last year, because we were expecting much more than him. You never know what the offensive line is going to look like with these guys. I mean, we've talked about it ad nauseum. The last time we had a good offensive line, we were seniors in college.
We actually do know what it's going to look like. It's going to look bad.
It's scary, yeah. And then I hope there's some development from the defense. I hope the secondary is better. I still think the linebackers might be the deepest group on that side, but they've lost a lot of depth from last year, so that doesn't give me a lot of confidence. It's just like we were talking, we got to hope that there's some development here, some steps forward, because I'm trying to come up with positive stuff to say, and as you can see, it's not helping very much.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you, Nikki.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm having as of now, we'll wait until they get on the field. But Jonathan Smith was hired as a developmental coach, and he better start developing. One thing that would be really nice, if we can only lose 4 Impacts players before Big Ten season starts, that'll probably help us.
Injuries.
Yeah,
that would be helpful.
I think I've been saying this the past 3 years. Well, we have to be better, right?
Yeah.
It felt like it the last 3 years. Yeah.
It did feel like
going into these seasons, like it can't be any worse.
Like last year, until the Michigan game, it actually didn't feel that bad.
Yeah.
It just seemed like that Michigan game took the wind out of our sails.
Yeah.
So I just think
a hot start, won too.
A hot start is going to mean a lot for this team. We cannot have Aiden Childs first throw bring an interception.
Yeah. Fewer turnovers for sure.
The meltdown. If we go 3 and out against Western that first drive, that meltdown is going to be legendary.
It's going to happen. I mean, I would almost bet money on that.
It is a classic. Going to be a 14-10 halftime, and I'm going to be panicking. But
one thing that has me excited is the potential development of Aiden Childs. I don't remember the name, but they brought over
John Boyer,
another coach. John Boyer. He's not the quarterback's coach, but I think he works closely with Childs, and I think that from what I've heard, that's been really positive and towards his development. Obviously, Childs has the talent to change a game. I think he can win you a lot of games. Also can lose you a lot of games with the turnovers. But if you can eliminate that, or at least just mitigate it, the talent that he has is immense, and he could truly, especially with a wide receiver like Marsh and hopefully Amari Kelly, that could truly be a game changer. I don't want to say Kenneth Walker type because that's crazy, but you have 3 pretty solid weapons there. I don't know what the running back situation is. That's
a scary part too.
That's a scary part, but also you have to have a good offensive line. It doesn't really matter who's carrying the ball if the offensive line's not working or gelling. And Childs too. If he doesn't, he can do a lot with his legs, but if he doesn't have time to make reads and make passes, we're not going to get very far. So defensively, I feel like at least the most recent transfer guys were all defensive backs. So hopefully one of those guys can help out. But the defensive line, I think, is a bit of a question mark, as it was last year. So that's going to be interesting. Just seems like that was a pretty big weakness for us last year.
Yeah.
After the first 3 or 4 games.
Yeah.
It
was something like a bunch of sacks in the first 6 games and then nothing after
Oh,
that.
that's right.
You got to be able to rush the passer the entire season, guys.
Yeah.
Yes, I forgot that we had a historically bad defense for.
Yeah. And I don't think we necessarily brought in any certainly not any big name defensive line guys. I'm sure we brought in some guys, but I don't think we brought in any game changers there.
Oh, we brought in a few. We can get into that in a bit too. They were not big names. In fact,
I don't think they're game changers. We brought in bodies. We
brought
in bodies.
Well, D2 players.
Yeah. But go ahead, Travis.
I was just gonna say, to your point about Boyer, I really liked what I read about him being not being afraid to challenge Childs. Like the rest of the coaching staff was kind of hyping him up, and he was like, well, that's good, but you got to do this, and this to fix what you're doing wrong and all that. That's something that he very much needed. And then the running game, I'm glad you brought up because I forgot to bring it up. I think I'm very optimistic about Frazier and Tullis back there with those 2 young guys, but we won't know until we see the field, and that's the scary part.
Yeah. And Tau Tolliver was the one that we brought in to transfer
from Sacramento State. Yeah. Scatterboo Part 2.
Yeah. That would be nice. But I mean, everything you hear from Childs, even from you see those quotes on Twitter, one Big Ten coach thinks, Aiden Childs could be the best quarterback in the conference. That's all great. You'd certainly rather have people saying that than not. But, it's kind of like you said, Travis, until they step on the field, it's all just talk. But not to put it all on one guy, but I mean, it kind of starts and ends with Childs. I mean, I always preach the offensive line, but if he's turning the ball over at the same rate as he was last year, there's no chance we win more than 5 or 6 games. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, he didn't really turn the ball over the second half of the year.
He was much better.
He threw the same amount of passes too. So that's definitely a positive development.
Yeah, you're right.
So in theory, if we that development, we should be
Yeah. So Vegas has the over-under at 5.5 games. Gun to your head right now. Travis, start with you. Over or under?
I guess I'm going to go over just slightly. I'm not comfortable about it, but to go under makes me so sad.
Yeah.
To be honest, if it was like life or death, gun to your head, if this happens, you die, I would probably choose the under.
If there was an actual gun pointed at my head, I might actually.
I would probably go under.
Yeah, I would have a much tougher time deciding.
I would take the over.
I'd be like, kill me either way. I don't care.
I would take the over. If I'm wrong, I might as well just die.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Nick, I think we've said for the past 2 or 3 seasons, it can't be worse. I truly don't think it can be worse. It's an easier schedule. We can't. It was just I can't envision a season where we don't win 6 games at least. But said that last year. Said that the year before.
Yeah.
So
I've said that pretty much every year since high school.
Birth.
Yeah.
Not birth. I've seen some pretty bad teams since birth.
Yeah. Any more thoughts on the state of the program? I mean, it's early, but
we suck until we don't at this point.
That's a great way to put it, Nikki.
It used to during the heyday it was we're good until we're not, but now we suck until we don't. Which really
that's true.
There is no reason for any team to respect us. In fact, they shouldn't even prepare. If other teams are watching this, don't even prepare when we play. Just don't even try, and you'll probably still beat them.
Yeah. They say sports and history can be cyclical. This feels like 20 years ago. we were so bad.
Yeah,
we have
But-
Jonathan Smith as coach, so
yeah.
Then
It
maybe
also
we'll get-
does.
We also had a coach named John Smith.
Yeah,
hey, that maybe we're getting the new D'Antonio next year. Then
yeah. It also does feel a little bit like 2021. Very low expectations. Second year of a coach. You never know. But
please God,
looking at the roster, I'll start on the offensive side of the ball. We know, obviously, Marsh at wide receiver, opposite of Amari Kelly. The third wide receiver, Christian McCray.
Yeah.
Alante
he
Brown,
actually
maybe.
was like one of the highest
Boyd
rated
Brown.
on PFF. He was like the number one receiver.
Mhm.
He's really fast. He's 2 years of eligibility left. He was basically the only like actual college player on that Kent State team
Mhm.
he was on.
Yeah. I
So
like
I
to see
think
that.
he could be someone who ends up just setting us on fire, or he could just
Mhm.
be someone who we never see.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
I've also heard good things about Eaton Boyd's brother, Evan Boyd. Apparently,
Evan Boyd.
He's way ahead of where they thought.
Where did he transfer from?
Central.
Okay.
So I mean, look, if he's Eaton Boyd's brother, I don't think he could be that good either. But you never know.
Yeah. It seems like they made a pretty concerted effort in the transfer portal on the wide receivers, which they needed because, like, you look at Nick Marsh's returning, Alante Brown's returning, and then it's two
Foster's
freshmen.
gone.
So they definitely needed some bodies there. And it sounds like by all accounts, the guys we got are somewhat or highly thought of. The offensive line moving over to that unit, left tackle looks like Stanton Ramel. Highly thought of recruit. Not a ton of experience, but
Played well last year.
yeah, third year in the program. We'll see. Christian Phillips coming back from injury.
Big duel.
Full year development too, because he was injured
Yeah.
this year or like that season.
Yep. Big Dooley coming back healthy, it looks like, sounds like. Center transfer Matt Golban, senior. Right guard Luka Vincic, also a transfer, junior. And then right tackle Connor Moore, also a junior transfer. So 2 returning guys, 3 transfers. Again, I think the offensive line, I think one thing people don't quite understand is that it really is a unit. Like it's a team within the team. Like that's just not like it is, very much like you have to do your job, but if they're not working together, it's not going to work. So hopefully, these guys can gel. They can get enough reps to really get going. Gavin Brocious is another guy. I think he's healthy now.
I was actually gonna get into that because I was reading some things from Comp earlier about the offensive line, and it sounds like Dooley's still getting over his injury and Brocious is healthy. So they're saying it could be basically a coin flip of whoever's going to be starting. I think it sounds like the injury might have held Dooley back a bit. I'm not sure. I also Rakeem Johnson. He's going to be a true sophomore or redshirt freshman. I don't know how many games he played in.
He was
last
getting
year.
last year. Yeah.
Yeah, he was supposed to be the center, but I think they're saying that he's probably just going to be pretty much versatile, 2 deep. He can do pretty much anything. They really like him. Connor Moore apparently was like the big one that we got. He's a guy who grew up an MSU fan.
That's right. Yeah.
And I'm surprised he did not go here because if anyone likes MSU, they don't go here nowadays.
Yeah.
And actually will not be starting anymore. It sounds like so that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it. Looks like he will be on the second right tackle. But well, that's
he was a
good to
guy
hear.
they basically said you're not going to start, and they thought he was going
Yeah.
to transfer to the stage. So I think that's cool.
It's pretty good when you have a starter that you can replace.
Yeah. Moving on to tight ends, Travis, you talked about tight ends a little bit. Obviously, Velling, last year kind of underwhelming, and I don't know if that was lack of talent or just seemed like there wasn't a massive effort to get him as involved as we might have hoped or thought he would be. But but a pretty deep unit there outside of Velling. I mean, Michael Masunis, however you want to pronounce it, and then Brennan Parachek as a third tight end. You have to feel pretty good, I think, about that group.
Yeah, I mean, you've been waiting for those other two to break out for a couple of years too, because they've been talk of camp most of the past couple of years.
Yeah,
Best
with Velling, I think
he just got hurt. Best Munis was pretty good last year, but he got hurt.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. You're waiting for them to have that healthy breakout year where they're able to contribute more than they have. With Velling, I think there was just a lot of not being on the same page. Honestly, it felt like he was open deep, and Childs would miss him, and they'd just be slightly off. So hopefully that's something they can fix. It also felt like maybe a little bit later in the year defenses were kind of keying in on him a little more because we didn't really have much to go with in that passing game. Because it was Nick Marsh, it was Montori Foster, and it was Jack Velling.
Right.
That was it.
Yeah. Hopefully some more weapons. Nick Marsh obviously very dangerous, and if you have Kelly and McCray also presenting threats, that should open up some more opportunities for the tight ends. Obviously, quarterback, we talked about Childs. He'll be backed up. Looks like by Alessio Milivojevic.
Apparently, get a great camp.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Everything you hear about Alessio is pretty positive.
Good.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. You called it initially. He's the next Noah Kim. He's going to be.
I hope I'm wrong. But hopefully we have 2 more years of Childs. But also, if Childs is a good enough year to go pro, then that means we probably had a pretty successful season. So running back situation, a little more muddy, I'd say. This projected depth chart, and this is from the end of April. So, this has Elijah Tolliver as a projected starter with Tulis and Frazier backing him up. Tulis and Frazier, I think, were both pretty good gets as recruits. Didn't get to see a lot of the field last year. But again, I think the running back room is going to go as far as the offensive line will let it.
I also saw some things that people were thinking that it's going to be basically Tulis and Frazier as RB1A, 1B. And then for like third downs, they might get Tau, and they might sprinkle in some Jace and Zion.
I was just going to ask, do you think we'll see any Jace as a true freshman?
Yeah.
I think there's enough uncertainty at the position, and he's definitely enough of a high-profile
in the mix
recruit to get in there. Yeah.
All right. I would like to see that. That was one positive of the recruiting when everyone was down that we were going to lose him. Secured him at the last second. Yep. Defensively. So defensive line, Jalen Thompson, I actually like. I think he's took some nice strides last year. I'm expecting a good year from him. I think Van Sumeren, I don't know how high the ceiling is, but I think you know what you got there. Ben Roberts and Dunnigan backing up both of those guys. Yeah, the big worm. So maybe it's not quite as bad as I thought. But certainly as of, today, there's not a true game changer on that defensive line. I mean, there's not a first overall pick. Not a player that's going to be recruited by Oregon as a transfer or Auburn that truly is going to cause a lot of problems. At least as of now, right? I mean, until I step on the field, we don't know. But Thompson, I'm really hoping for big things from him.
Yeah. We don't have any players yet that are too good to play for MSU and get transferred and become a first-round pick of another school.
Yeah, right. Yeah, not yet. Yeah. Defensive tackle. These are 2 names I'm not familiar with. Grady Kelly, David Santiago. Again, I think the ends we might be all right at. The defensive tackles, I think, is where. Go ahead.
Grady Kelly's the transfer from Florida State.
Okay.
Maybe he moved into his old home.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm not familiar with the other guy.
Yeah. And the backups there. Transfer freshman Anelu Lafele. Jalen Satchel, redshirt senior transfer.
Yeah, Satchel was a rotational guy last year.
Yeah. Linebackers, Wayne Matthews Jr., Jordan Hall, obviously, we know what we have there. Although I will say kind of a sophomore slump type year. You didn't quite hear his name as much as you did as a freshman. Don't know if that's scheme or just
I feel like they had a lot of bodies to throw in there.
Yeah.
That might be what it was.
Yeah, could be. This has Darius Snow starting on the strong side linebacker. A guy that I've really come to like. I mean, he's been here for a while. Obviously he's dealt with some injuries, but if he could, he obviously has experience. Obviously loves Michigan State enough to still be here. It would be nice to see him have a good season.
Yeah, I'm rooting for him.
Yeah.
He's never quite reached his full potential because of that injury, unfortunately.
Yeah, agreed. And Brady Pretzloff, another guy that was one of the bigger recruits, I think, when John Smith first took over, taking it from Minnesota. We'll see what he can bring to the table. I think that, Trev, I think you mentioned it. It's more of a question mark than it was last year. I think the linebacker room was probably one of our stronger units, but it's not quite as deep this year. I think you do have some talent and experience at the starting spots, but after that, it's a bit of a drop off, and we all know how the injuries work, especially with this team. So
an injury could be scary there.
Yeah, no question about that. Defensive backs. I mean, this as the defensive backfield has been a bugaboo for us for as long as I can remember. It feels like Chance Rucker starting at corner, and then Joshua Eaton on the other side. Sounds like it looks like
Texas State transfer.
Yeah. You got some younger guys that we've kind of heard about. Justin Denson. He's at safety. Never mind. Sorry. But I think the cornerbacks again. It's not exactly a deep.
You got to wait
situation.
To see what you got out there.
Yeah, I mean, I like Chance Rucker.
Hughes from LSU has some potential in there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they don't have him here, but I forgot about him.
There.
Yeah, this is from April, so it might be just not quite updated.
I look at the On3 one.
Yeah, I'm not looking at On3.
Oh, okay, never mind.
I think you're looking at the R Lads one.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Safety.
They do. They got him at the nickel.
Oh, they have him at nickel. Yeah. Sorry. Yep. There he is. That threw me off. So he's another guy. I think anytime you get someone from LSU, I think that you're automatically going to have high hopes for. So we'll see.
We had hope for Amir Speed at Georgia too. So
yeah, exactly. That's where I'm like, I don't know how much great I can say. It's one of those things. It's like I've never watched Jeremiah Hughes play. At least not that I was consciously like, oh, there's Jeremiah Hughes. Like I've watched LSU games, but
Hughes on our team last year.
Yeah, he was.
Second year in MSC, right?
Yeah, I don't know how much he played last year. Did he?
Yeah, that's what we're saying. We didn't notice him on the field much.
I mean, who cares? He played last year. If he did, he needs to get better.
Yeah. Safeties, I feel a little better about. I mean, you go all the way down to like the 3 spot on safeties. Like the third guy in the depth chart is Avion Gross and Khalil Majid on the other side. Like those are guys that have gotten reps and have not been, awful. Looking at the starting safeties, Nakai Martinez, I think he was more than serviceable last year. And then Malik Spencer, I think is, he's
top dog.
He was a couple dropped interceptions away from being incredible.
Yeah.
One that I'm in particular that I'm thinking about in the end zone that still makes me angry. That one's he hasn't really won back favor for that, but maybe catch those next time.
Yeah, that would be nice. Then Justin Denson and Armorian Smith.
It's a Morian.
Morian. Those names always give me a hard time. Those are guys that, I mean, Justin Denson was pretty highly thought of recruit. Was he the one that was just like
he's the one who's
Never going to commit.
Leaving.
Yeah.
He's the one who, when we signed Tracy Rebels, he was like, he had a tweet that was like, oh, damn, really? Okay, bet. Oh,
Okay.
Yeah. The one thing looking at special teams, no Jonathan Kim this year.
Yeah. The kicker kind of scares me because every time you bring in a new kicker, it scares me. We haven't had very good luck with those kickers.
Yeah.
I mean, we had Jonathan Kim,
he was good.
Coughlin and Geiger were pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
But then before that, I mean, I'm kind of blanking. Brett Swenson, Dave Rayner, going way back now.
Like 2011, he was pretty good.
Oh, Dan Conroy.
Yeah, Dan Conroy.
He was solid. He was solid too. Yeah. But I mean, kickers, especially in college, tend to be hit and miss, especially with the younger guys. Yeah. And I think what are we turning into Connington, who's freshman, redshirt freshman?
This has Tarek.
Oh, really?
And
that was Ryan
basic.
Or no, he's the
Interesting.
Eckley's punter. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, we're good at
honestly,
punter.
If we're playing close enough games against good teams where the kicker matters and we lose because of that, I guess I can allow that. Oh, I'll be really mad. I'll be extremely angry in the moment.
Jonathan Kim was the guy you could rely on in that situation.
Yeah, if you got past the 50, you were in field goal range. I mean, but that reminds me, like those 4th and 1 situations where we're in plus territory, like if they don't figure out how to start picking those up, like I've never seen a team that's been worse at running QB sneak than Michigan State, and that's with Childs, with
Hauser,
even what's the other guy? The transfer to Auburn,
Thorne.
Oh, Peyton Thorne.
Yeah, Peyton Thorne. Like which has not been able to run that play, and then it's even worse when we hand it off to a running back. It's like we've been inept at picking up 4th downs. Yeah. I don't know why talking about kickers brought me to that, but that's something that's got to be better this
situation.
Year. Yeah. So that's got to be better this year. So that's kind of an overall look at the roster. I mean, lots of new faces. Lots of same faces.
Lots of question marks.
That's
lots of question marks.
Yeah.
Might as well just change the logo.
Yeah. Yep. It's going to be like that moving forward. I mean, it's going to be a new team every year. But yeah, I mean, I think lots to look forward to, lots to be worried about. And we'll see it all on August 29th when they take the field that Friday night.
That's right.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? Nothing?
I don't have anything else.
Please win. Press the NIL button. Press the injury button.
Yes. Press it. Every button. All the good buttons.
Oh, one thing about J Batt. I'm pretty sure he was behind, or he helped get Nate Oates hired at Alabama.
That's true. I saw that.
Yeah, he did.
Yep. Nate Oates. That is another thing that J Batt is going to have to probably do is replace Tom Izzo. If everything, he's probably going to be the athletic director, I would think, for 2 or 3 years. Like he would have to do a bad job to get fired within that time. I'm saying I hope he's the athletic director for much longer. But you're probably talking about replacing Tom Izzo, I think, sooner than I thought. I think 2 or 3 years max for Tom.
Sooner than you want to think.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
So that's going to be a big thing. I don't know if they would go after Nate Oates with all the kind of
off the field
stuff that he's had, off the court stuff that he's dealt with.
They had players involved in murder stuff.
Yeah, that's just that's not exactly
that's a ward hire.
But yeah, I mean, I also just want to win, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Or allegedly involved in murder stuff, I should say.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Tom Izzo seemed pretty excited about the hire. I think those two will work together to find a good replacement. That's my hope and my thoughts and my expectation.
I have confidence in the people that are in charge in those certain situations, those certain positions. Maybe not overall in the university, but right there, those people that will be hiring a basketball coach, I have faith in.
Yeah. I think Tom has probably earned the right to name his successor
Yeah.
I just hope they go outside of the program. There's not someone on the staff right now that I would say
No,
hand over the keys.
there's no former
it'll be
assistant where
Will
I'm like, this
Dickerson.
guy's got to be the guy.
I bet it's going to be Saudi Washington.
Yeah, I was literally just gonna say I could see it being Saudi Washington. Well, that'll do it. Oh, go ahead, Trev. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say there were probably worse options than that, honestly.
Oh, there certainly are worse options. Yeah, I mean, they could hire Tommy Amaker. I mean, that would be bad. You know, like that. There's a lot of worse options, but there's a lot of better options too, I think. But yeah, that'll do it for the Spartan Savants. I don't know when we'll be on next. You know, at this point, I don't think there's enough really going on to go on weekly, but if stuff happens or there's things to talk about, we'll try and get on
Whenever there's something to talk about is when we'll be back on.
And then obviously when the season gets closer, we'll start ramping up. But for Nikki and Trav and Willie, we will see everyone hopefully soon. Find us, obviously, like and subscribe on YouTube. If you prefer to just listen, we're anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, whatever it may be. Shout out to the College Huddle. We appreciate them having us as the Michigan State representative. I think there is a Michigan podcast now with the College Huddle. We're no longer the only ones in the state, so I forget the name of it as well. But it probably wouldn't be bad if I said don't go listen to them. But you know,
Don't
screw them.
Just don't.
It could be great guys.
We're the important ones.
That's right. But for that, we'll that'll do it for our episode, 61st episode. Look forward to seeing you guys soon. Go Green.
Go
White.